They always say, never fall in love with something that doesn't bleed. But he did, and by the time he realized what she was, it was already their wedding night. This is the story of the man who married a fairy. It comes from a small Berber village high up in the Moroccan mountains where magic is real and love can be deadly. Magic and love. Powerful stuff. Okay, now we start the story. Chapter 1. The Stranger by the River. In the highlands near Emil Shil, where mist weaves through the pine trees and rivers run cold even in summer, a young shepherd named Idris lived alone. He was a quiet soul. He spent his days tending his goats and his nights watching the stars. He spoke little, not because he had no words, but because he had little need to speak. The mountain held his secrets and the wind carried his songs. It was a life of simple peace until one foggy dawn, while he was by the river watering his flock, he saw her. She wasn't walking, she was gliding. Her pale feet never touched the ground. Her hair spilled down like black silk and her eyes shimmered silver in the moonlight. She said her name was Nura and that she had no family, no village, just the mountains and the river. She said she had been wandering for a long time. Now, any sensible man would have sent her on her way, called her a fairy or a genie or whatever she was, and kept to his own business. He was captivated, not by everything she said, but by the way she looked, by the way she moved, by the sadness in her eyes. He felt a connection, a pull he couldn't understand. And so he invited her to share his home, his fire, his bread. That night, lying beside him under a blanket of stars, he told her about his dreams, his hopes, his fears, and she listened, nodding her head, her eyes distant. And when the moon climbed high, she shared her own stories, tales of faraway lands, of wonders and magic, of loves both lost and found. By the time the sun began to rise, he was smitten, and as the birds woke up in the trees, he asked her to stay with him, to be his wife. She looked at him then, really looked at him, her gaze piercing, and after a moment, she agreed. Weeks passed and the villagers whispered about the strange woman who had come to live with the shepherd, but he paid them no heed. He was in love, and she was unlike anyone he had ever met, but that only made her more fascinating. Yet there were signs, strange signs. After the first snowfall, the animals began dying. First, the chickens, their eyes scooped out, their bodies left mangled in the hay. Then the goats, twisted, contorted, as if some unseen force had played with their bones. He found scratches on his walls too, strange symbols drawn in charcoal, and every time he asked her about these things, she changed the subject, and when he pressed her she would retreat to her room, emerging only when he was asleep. One evening, he heard the old imam, who was visiting that week, talking to one of the villagers. The topic, of course, was his new wife, a beautiful woman living alone in the mountains. The imam said, "She's either a fairy or a jinn. Do not let her bed touch your wife, nor your children sleep in her room. If you do, you invite calamity." He turned to Idris then and shook his head sadly. "My son, you have taken a wife, but you will pay for it." Chapter 2. The Forbidden Union. For the next few days, he couldn't shake the imam's words. Nura seemed distant, and when he tried to talk to her, she would flinch. Then one night, she came to him in the middle of the night. She was crying, tears tracing paths down her pale face. "Idris," she whispered, "I need you to make a promise." He sat up in bed and took her hand. "What is it?" "You know, I will do anything for you." She looked at him then, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "If you marry me," she said, "you must never ask me where I go at night, and never follow me when I leave." He was taken aback. Why would she want such a thing? Still, she was upset. So he agreed. He promised her. He married her in a small ceremony the next day, deep in the forest, hidden amongst the trees. Only the imam and a few close friends attended. When he put the ring on her finger, though, he noticed how white her skin was, almost translucent, and how her eyes seemed to glow in the shadows. Afterward, the imam refused to eat or speak for 3 days. On the 3rd day, he finally broke his fast. He summoned Idris aside and said, "You have married a monster, a creature of darkness, and you have sealed your fate." Idris, however, was blinded by love, or perhaps by enchantment. He didn't listen. The first few weeks were like paradise, at least until the animals began dying. First the chickens, their eyes scooped out, their bodies left mangled in the hay. Then the goats, twisted, contorted, as if some unseen force had played with their bones. He found scratches on his walls too, strange symbols drawn in charcoal. And when he asked her about these things, she would change the subject. When he pressed her, she would retreat to her room, emerging only when he was asleep. And at night, she would vanish. He would wake up and she would be gone. No footsteps, no door creaking, just gone. And when the moon was full, he would find silvery footprints on his floor, leading to the door and then outside, into the night, into the fog. Chapter 3. The night she changed. Unable to bear the loss of his animals and the fear of losing her, one night he decided to follow her. He waited until the last embers of the fire died and the owl replaced the crickets in the trees. Then, wrapping himself in a cloak, he stepped out into the fog, following her barefoot into the night. She walked to an old, forgotten ruin, a stone circle from ancient times. There, under the blood moon, he saw other women like her. Naked, beautiful, inhuman. They danced without music, whispered in a language no man should hear. Then he saw it. She was not wearing a shadow. Her body cast no reflection, and when she turned her head to the side, her mouth split ear to ear, full of black teeth. He didn't need to see more. He knew who she was. He ran back to the house, heart pounding, hands shaking. He burst through the door and collapsed on the floor, gasping for breath. When she returned, he hid under the bed. She slipped between the sheets, her dress soaked in dew and blood. He peeked out from under the bed and asked her, softly, "Did you go to the ruins tonight?" She turned to him then, her eyes glittering in the dark. "Why would you think that?" He lied enough. "Go back to sleep, my love," she smiled. "Good. Because if you had followed me, husband," she said, her voice suddenly sharp, "you'd have to stay with me forever." And he believed her. That night he packed his things. He didn't get far. Chapter 4. The last morning. The next morning, the villagers found him in the field. Face frozen in terror, eyes boiled out of their sockets, his heart ripped from his chest and left on the ground beside him. A single silvery footprint marked the spot. Epilogue. The people of Imulchil haven't forgotten the tale of Idris and the fairy. If a beautiful woman shows up alone, never tired, never hungry, never aging, they lock their doors. And if you hear someone humming at your window on a moonless night, don't look, don't speak, don't fall in love. Because fairies may love you back, but they never let go.